All right, should we head out?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, welcome. Episode 50 of the Between Two Wheels podcast, cycling news, commentary, analysis, interviews from Northern California, but coming to you from wherever you are. This episode is brought to you by Health IQ, an insurance company that helps health-conscious people get special life insurance rates. Go to healthiq.com/BTW to support the show and learn more. And as always, subscribe and share the show via iTunes, Stitcher, Podbeam, whatever podcast service you use. And for this week, we're also back on the Between Two Wheels podcast YouTube channel as well. You know, Chris, I listened to some other shows that broadcast from their basement, some professional cyclists. We don't. We take the effort to go out to at least Copy Republic,
Right.
and or my office.
We travel.
Yeah. Oh, we travel. Yeah, we did it in a hotel room, and I think the sound quality is better than. I'm Tyler Janke. Welcome to the Between Two Wheels podcast. Chris Flower in studio with me today. How you doing today, Chris?
I'm doing great. It's Friday for us. It's sunny. It's 70. It should be about the same over the weekend. So it's a nice turn in the weather here in NorCal over the past week. So I'm looking forward to a nice weekend.
Yeah, we went from pretty cold, nice but cold weather in Chico. Well, the week before it was just rain, and then nice weather at Chico, but it was cold. Then we had some rain, and now it's like summer.
Yeah, now it's a beautiful spring summer day. So looking forward to taking advantage of it.
Yeah, Curt, how you doing? Crickets. No Curt for us today. So Curt, however you are, wherever you are, send us a note. Hopefully you're doing well. Okay, so we're going to tease a few things here real quick and then get to some commentary. We do have an interview that Chris conducted, and we'll get to that as well. But it was at the time trial, the Tempus Fugit individual time trial last week. Is that correct?
That is correct, down in Castro Valley.
All right, and you want to mention who you spoke with?
Yeah, I talked to Zach Morvant. He's with Dolce Vita, and he was the winner of the day.
Spoiler?
Oh, spoiler alert! He did well, and it was nice of him to take a couple minutes to chat.
Yeah, and thanks for doing that. Okay, so let's just talk about a few things here we've got going. First of all, on the World Tour, Old Man Valverde wins the Volta a Catalunya in Spain. He seems a little rejuvenated, like he took blood transfusions, maybe a 21-year-old during his 2-year cycling hiatus.
Nobody would do that.
No one would do that, no. Despite having really strong showing in the Tour of Flanders, he has decided now to pull out of the Tour of Flanders this Sunday. Anyway, Peter Sagan won the Gent Wevelgem Classic ahead of the biggest one-day race, the Tour of Ned Flanders, as Homer Simpson's least favorite race coming up. And he literally made Viviani cry. Tour of Flanders is this weekend, Sunday. Lance Armstrong has backed out of attending some pre-race gala due to family issues. I don't know what those family issues are, but we can maybe get into that later. Locally, we had the Tempus Fugit individual time trial. It was dominated by Zach Morvant. Chris, like I said, interviewed him, and Chris also took part in that, so we can talk about that. You have some insights from that race. And then 1 week after the actually, it's more than a week after. No, it was the next week after Chico stage race. Chris Reichert and Teams Mike's Bikes just goes out and dominates the Santa Cruz Classic. And, in our interview with Chris, he had said he did, what did he say? He more watts than you can imagine. Well, I think he replicated that again in the Santa Cruz Crit, and we'll get to that.
I think he may have added watts to more watts than you can imagine, so I'm not sure what the next level is,
well,
but he hit it.
As math, there's infinite, and then there's infinite plus one, right?
That's true, yeah.
So I think he went the extra step. Anyway, he smashed the P12 field. The women's and men's masters were also dominated by TMBE, so we'll get to that as well. And then we're going to remind you of some of the NorCal calendar and some of the World Tour races coming up, as long as group rides in your area. All right, let's begin this thing. What do you think?
I'm ready. Let's hit it.
All right. Volta a Catalunya. So we had a 7-day stage race in Spain, some bad weather going on there. We're going to go to it real quick and just break this down. But Alejandro Valverde, movie star, ends up dominating. He beats his teammate Nairo Quintana by 29 seconds. However, Egan Bernal of Team Sky was in second place by 16 seconds going into the last day, crashes out. He seems to me to be kind of the next up-and-coming star, I mean, if you think about it. And I wonder how long he's going to end up staying with a team like Sky, being Colombian.
I would assume he'll be there for a while. He's getting marginal gains like the rest of the team and kind of growing into the next GC superstar. So I could see him hanging around for a bit, learning the ropes, and then maybe stepping into a role where he would take on the Giro or maybe the Vuelta and just kind of show what he's got. It's going to be, I think, a situation of Froome's still going to be the dominant guy for the team, but somebody like Bernal can step in and backfill some of those, not to call them mid-tier Grand Tours, but he can definitely provide some support for the team there.
Well, these 7-day stage races, Paris-Nice, Catalonia, País Vasco coming up. It would just be interesting to see what a guy like that with such prominence coming in, going through the Sky Factory, and see how long he'll be able to hold. He's already looked amazing. Tour Down Under, some of these other races. So.
Would you see him going to like Movistar or something like that instead?
Well, you see that with the Colombians, right? They tend to end up going to like a Spanish-speaking team, just a little bit more along the lines. I did hear that he had been really working on his English, so he might have kind of taken a step forward of not having, insecurity being on that team already. So anyway, he looked good. Just some highlights that I show here. Simon Yates, Mitchell and Scott won stage 7. It was pretty cool in the rain. Magic Mahoric behind Bahrain Merida, easy for me to say. I don't know if you saw, we had talked about him before. He was doing like 90 some kilometers an hour in the descent. He was blistering in this race as well on some descents, catching up to breaks. He had, I also looked through there, he had 4 times he was in the top 9 out of 7 total stages. So he was, and a lot of that was some of his descending skills, pretty good. Valverde won 2 stages along the way. I did hear this just yesterday. Team Trek Segafredo's member Markel Iziar Arambaru, his cousin died in a freak avalanche accident. It was the day before stage 5, and stage 5 went right through that area that he died.
Oh, wow.
So they kind of rode through there. They dedicated that race to him, and Jolinson Pantano ended up getting off the front and actually winning that day, dedicated to his teammate and his cousin. So it's kind of a cool thing. I don't even know if we want to say this, but I guess Brent Bookwalter had put out a tweet kind of mocking the Spanish and their adoration of Valverde. I don't even know if we want to get into that, but it's for me, actually, it was kind of cool to see that, Valverde, very old. Well, he's 37 for a pro tour, and he's winning like crazy. He had a knee accident that just damaged his kneecap last year's Tour de France, and he seems to be no worse for the wear. So I'm always skeptical on these guys, and I guess some in the pro peloton are as well.
You don't believe in miracles? That's disappointing. No, I agree. It seems like it's hard to believe some of the performances, but I guess we just have to wait and see.
I guess we all tend to do that sometimes. I was really following along with the Floyd Landis trial at the time, wondering. Anyway, we won't get into that. Gent Wevelgem results. We'll just say Peter Sagan, the Bora Hansgrohe rider, won the 250-kilometer Gent Wevelgem in a small bunch kick over some pretty serious contenders, Elia Viviani, Arnaud Demar. There was Sacha Modolo was up there. And then coming over the finish, Viviani banging his bars and literally cried over this.
I saw that. Yeah, it looks like, obviously he was disappointed to lose. I read a bunch of interviews with him after the fact, and he came away basically saying he really feels like he let the team down because they did a great job kind of protecting him through the finish, getting him set up in a great position. And, coming into the finishing straight, he took a less than optimal line is kind of what he thought after the fact, where, had he been better positioned, he thinks he had the legs.
He got boxed in.
Everybody gets boxed in, right? He said he took followed a line with Demar and kind of got pinched up against the barriers and just was able to sneak through. But if he had taken a better line, he probably would have taken the win because he felt like he had better legs. But yeah, the disappointment was pretty obvious in the moments after the race when you saw his reaction.
If he's going to say that it was because his teammates did so much work and that he disappointed to let them down, that's pretty cool. But he may have been the fastest sprinter, but there is just something about Sagan, and you get a long distance race like that, and the sprints just play out a little bit different. And
definitely, yeah, when those guys have 200 kilometers, whatever, in their legs, they're going to be a little slower, and Sagan definitely has the that extra oomph. One of the things I found amusing was Viviani was talking about the finishing sprint and how he was following Demar up against the barriers, and he said that the space was a little too small, so he just closed his eyes and went through. And it kind of took me back to that interview you had with with Justin Williams closing his eyes in the last corner. So maybe that's kind of one of the secrets of being a good sprinter is just close your eyes and hope for the best.
I hope not.
It's a little alarming to hear that these guys are closing their eyes in the last 150, 200 meters of a race.
Yeah, all you young kids out there that are listening to this, don't think that you have to close your eyes going into the corners. You can keep them open and look for the best line. But that's interesting to hear. Okay, so then we had the women's Gent. Seventh year that they've had that. They did 142.5 kilometers, 6 of the tough cobbled Halligen along the way, in the cobble climb of the Montenberg. The top 3 were Marta Bastianelli of the Ale Cipollini team, Jolien Dehor of the Mitchelton Scott, and Lisa Klein of Canyon SRAM Racing. Did you get a chance to see? You probably didn't. I don't even think you saw much of the Gent itself.
I didn't. I didn't see much of either. I just kind of played catch up on some of the various media outlets, and it looked like it was a pretty well contested finish in the women's race as well. But
yeah, it looked like a big bunch sprint. So anyway, congrats to them. And so Flanders, we got Tour of Flanders coming up. It's classic season, of course. So we've got this. They call it I was looking at some research on this. We talked about this a little bit ago, where the Omloop came about because of the Nazi occupation of Belgium and their involvement in the Tour de Flanders, the police, and they loved that sport. So they wanted to kind of separate. And so they being some of the Belgians, so they created the Omloop. Well, the whole idea of the Tour of Flanders, though, they wanted a Flemish only. They wanted the whole race to just be in showcase the Flemish portions of Belgium being split between French and Flemish. But the Tour of Flanders, the name is the Ronde van Vlaardingen. So I looked that up. That's Dutch. How does your Flemish only nationalistic race come up with a Dutch name to describe it? And I don't know all the ins and outs of the languages there throughout the country, but that seems a little odd to me.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
I could not. I tried to look at multiple places. That appeared to be what. Anyway. Great race. Some people love it. Some people say it's the best race, the classics. Some a little bored with it, but
I like it. I think it's a great race. There's a lot of opportunity for different types of riders to win, and it's just brutal. It's a great race to watch.
Yeah, and I was listening to, and I'll throw out this Cycling News podcast, and I think it was with Ed Pickering. He wrote a whole book on the Tour of Flanders. I think it was 2011, and he was breaking down that the way that those cobbles are and that how they're steep, it really requires like a lot of seated power. So you get a different type of rider because you should go to stand up. You're going to spin out on them. So you see, Johan Museo, Boonen, Kanselar, the last 3 they're all 3-time winners, and that's guys that can really generate that kind of power.
Right.
And you say different types of riders come along. Nibali is signed up to do the race.
Yeah, it seems like it's the one where he has the opportunity to do well. And it was interesting to see that Valverde was considering it, but then pulled out. He'd be another guy that'd be a good contender for this race.
Yeah, I mean, both of those guys seem to go along just fine. It'll be interesting to see how Nibali does with this. What's the reason for him doing it? Did you read anything about that, or?
I didn't really look.
Even
into
have any
it
speculation?
Much, but good training miles. If he wanted to get some miles in his legs on rougher terrain as kind of a primer for Tour de France, that's one option. Another one is who else on that team's got a better shot.
Yeah,
they're not necessarily built for that type of race, so it's like, well, this you might be our best option.
Sonny Cabrelli? I don't know.
Maybe. It's hard to say.
I don't know. So anyway, you're going to see some Sagans, Van Avermaets, Oliver Naesen, Tish Benoot. I don't know who else you have in that. We could go through the list of the multiples on there. Like I said, Nibali, it'll be interesting to see. I just don't think the preparation for the Tour de France is necessary to go through, since it's going to be on some cobbles, that you need to do the Flanders race. But what if he wrecks in this thing, hits some cobbles and goes down and cracks a knee or something like that, and then he's out of the Tour because he was fiddling around with Flanders?
Yeah, that'd be a bummer. In terms of the guys that are in there, I always root for Sepp Van Mark. I like his racing style. He's very aggressive, probably sometimes to a fault. But it'd be good to see him get a good win. He's
been in the mix the last few weeks as well.
He has.
EF Education First, and I saw he just signed a 2-year extension.
Yeah, maybe that'll give him a little extra motivation.
Sure, if that's what you need for motivation. Okay, so and then coming up after Flanders, we have kind of two big races that are completely opposite of each other. You have obviously the next weekend, Masters Golf is the same day as Paris-Nice.
Yes.
So I always get a kick out of the comparison. Someone wins the golf championships, and then whoever wins, wins the Masters, and whoever wins Paris-Nice, is always a comparison of how much prize money was. And it's not even close. But,
no.
Anyway, you have Paris-Roubaix, and then you have Pays Basque, which is another, I think, 7-day stage race. I think it's in the Basque Country. And have you ever seen the hat that the winner gets to that?
I have, yeah. That's
quite the.
It's a nice win.
Yeah, I don't know what you do with it, but pretty cool. Okay, Northern California, we've got group rides. We went on the Folsom bike. You've done a few in the Folsom area. I did the Wednesday night ride out of Folsom Bikes, but what other ones are here? We have River Ride, and we're just going to say ours. Maybe you guys can chime in on our Facebook of the rides you guys do. I know there's a bunch over in the Bay Area.
Yeah, in Sacramento, we've got options aplenty. You've got the River Ride, which goes Monday. You've got the South River Ride on Tuesday. You've got the River Ride on Thursday. And you've got the River Ride on Saturday.
Is there not a Wednesday?
There isn't a Wednesday that I'm aware of. There's also some midday ones that do kind of River Ride-esque routes. Also I think they kick off at Discovery Park. I'm not 100% certain on that. But up in the hills, we've got the Sierra Nevada Folsom Bike Ride that takes place on Tuesday. And then there's the Wednesday night.
Where's that leave from?
That leaves from Folsom Bike, 5:30. And then there's also the Wednesday night Folsom Bike Race Ride, which leaves from the same place, Folsom Bike, at 5:30, and it's the same route. It's just a little more race-oriented pace. So
no, both. I know the Wednesday one goes up Sierra College all the way, but does the other one? I was talking to Nabil the other day, and I think they take the cutoff. Or
we took the cutoff this past week. There was some concern about amount of daylight, so they usually build into it.
Gotcha.
So in the next couple of weeks, they'll start adding in the full Sierra College loop. But yeah, it's been nice to have those back. They're it's not great training per se, but it's a staple of my training diet. Just get out and hammer for an hour and a half and call it good.
Well, for the time crunched person like myself, those are vital for maintaining fitness. I mean, there's a 40-minute stretch in there where I could get some of my highest sustained power for the year easily when we hit the Sierra College, go up English Colony all the way out to down Auburn Folsom.
Yeah,
it can be on. So
it's on Wednesdays. It's usually full gas.
No waiting.
No.
All right, so those are the ones we have around here. And then on the weekends, Coffee Republic, and you obviously have the River Ride, the stalwart of the valley. So
yeah, and those will be kind of intermittently attended just based on who's racing what that weekend. If there's a big local race, I think a couple weeks ago, Coffee Republic had maybe 5 guys on it because everybody was racing Snelling or something like that. So,
but then I will say that when we showed up Wednesday, there's like 60 people, I want to say, something like that. It was ridiculous.
It was a good turnout. So.
Yeah. All right. Santa Cruz that we had this last weekend. Let's just drop through the results real quick. Do you have the P12s at your...
I do, yeah. If we want to do top 5, fifth place, we've got Jeff Linder with Tarun Elite. In 4th place, Zach Gottsman. He's with Mellow Motors. 3rd place, Garrett Hankins with Team Mike's Bikes. 2nd place, Stephen Vogel with Team Mike's Bikes, and the winner was Chris Reichert with Team Mike's Bikes. And I wasn't at the race, but just kind of culling through some folks' kind of race reports and data. It looks like he decided he was going to take it solo from about minute 15, Chris Reichert, and held off everybody for the duration of the race and put out some impressive power through the performance there. So really well done on his part.
Yeah, very well. And then you had, the rounding out the podium there with Teams Mike's Bikes, getting 2nd and 3rd on I think it was the field there. And Jeff Linder had a video, pardon me, video of that. So you can, the bike from on bike when he got 5th. So you can check that out on YouTube as well.
Yeah, it looked like it was obviously a tough race, but cold rain allegedly rolled through and maybe even some hail to mix it up. So on a course like that with some hairpin turns and technical descents, must have been an interesting race.
Yeah, that first corner is a little more than a 90. It's like a 100 or 110 or 20 or something like that. So it's pretty tricky, a little downhill. In the women's, you had Team Mike's Bikes continued with Melanie Wong getting the win with an honorable mention. We're going to call this out here for the Meteor Intelligentsia team getting 5th. Kristen Arnold. We talked to them at the Chico stage race, and it was good to see some of them sticking around and doing some racing here. How about the 35s?
In the 35 plus, it looks like we've got the top 4 here handy. Aaron Patterson with Pete's, Jeremy Cottle with Touchstone Racing in 3rd. 2nd place was Scott Cox with Team Mike's Bikes, and winner was Dana Williams, also with Team Mike's Bikes. So as you noted earlier, Mike's Bikes had a great showing at that race.
Yeah, so we just decided to call them out on that. Tempus Fugit time trial. So you showed up there.
I did, yeah.
And you raced. Our teammate Travis raced. They had a ton of categories, but I was looking at times and stuff, and it just looks like the 2 fastest times were literally the P12 and the 35s.
Yeah.
So you can talk about both of those, give some updates on or the placings if you want to go through those, and then give us a little about how you did. Well, your pacing. You want me to interview? I'll just interview you on that. Why don't you give the placings first?
Yeah. Well, you can start interviewing me while I pull up the placings here.
Well, had you ever done the time trial?
I hadn't done that time trial before, and I kind of made the mistake going into it thinking that it was pretty flat. Didn't look at a course profile, didn't look at anybody's Strava from previous efforts.
Did you even ask your teammate?
I did talk to my teammate Travis briefly beforehand, and he said, "Oh, there's some rollers on the way out. It's just go hard." Okay. It's an 11-mile TT. It's 5.5 out, 5.5 back, and it's more like 3 to 4% out incline. So the return is 3 to 4% back. So I just kind of went out and tried to target like a steady power output. Thinking
is that kind of like the time trial we do in the Cascade? Is it the Skyline or the
Skyliners? I think Skyliner's a little steeper.
Okay.
There were some parts of Skyliners where I could just get an aero tuck and sit there for 2 minutes at 45 miles an hour. That wasn't really an option here. There was definitely.
You're talking about downhill, right?
Yeah. I can't go that fast uphill in a tuck. But at this one, you had fewer opportunities to just freewheel at high speed. But it was a little wet. It was my first time on the course. And then in the last couple of miles, there's a few turns that I wasn't particularly comfortable with, having it be my first time going down them in the aero extensions at high speed. So I think course knowledge is big on that one, just knowing the lines, knowing where to put out power, where not to put out power. So my performance was, it wasn't terrible. I think I was 6th place in the 35 plus. Kind of looking at it after the fact, I could probably knock some time off just by better course management. So go out harder knowing that the return's going to have a lot of opportunity to maintain high speed with low power. And, talking to some folks after the fact, they said, oh yeah, you definitely want to go out harder and utilize that descent on the return. And I think just being on the course more often and knowing what the lines are through the turns helps as well. So it's a fun event. It was, it to the extent that you can call a time trial a fun event. You're literally just going out there and going as hard as you can for 20, 25 minutes, whatever it ends up being. So it was well run and I enjoyed it. So how was your time compared to the winner? I did the 35 plus only, and Zach Morvant won that. I think he put about 2 minutes on me.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, he was definitely moving. So he put 2 minutes and 5 seconds on me, which is pretty good effort on his part. So in the 35s, that's the race I did. Top 3 were Chris Evans with Tarun Elite, Travis Retzer with Data Driven Athlete, and Zach Morvant with Dolce Vita. Zach and Travis were relatively close. Zach had a 24:54, Travis with a 25:08, and there was a pretty big gap to third place. Chris Evans with 26:39. So looking at a minute 31 between second and third, and there was about 5 of us within 20 seconds of each other from third to 7th place. So it was 2 guys were clearly ahead of the rest. So they did really well. And as you noted, Zach, he also won the P12. He had a 24:51. Second place was Kevin Metcalf with 25:07. Metcalf is with Pete's Coffee Racing, and then Chris Evans was third place in that race with a 26:31. He's with Turin Elite. So when I talked to Zach, I just kind of asked him what was your approach to the race? How did you handle it, and what was your objective? So he kind of had the insight of, you got to go out harder, knowing the course is going to have some descent on the return. So it was interesting to get his perspective, because he said, he hasn't really done a lot of time trialing until, the past year or so. The last time he did this course was 3 years ago. So it was a tough event, but it was well attended.
I think he said his time was just a few seconds off in the two races.
Yeah.
And then I did a little comparison of the P12 and the Masters 35. So it looks like Kevin Metcalf would have beat Travis by a second if they were all going, pool those in together. So you would have had Zach still winning, Kevin Metcalf second, and Travis third. So it was good effort by Travis on there as well.
Yeah, and I talked to Travis a little bit afterward over coffee, and he was having some technical issues with his equipment. So he was having trouble getting his power meter to pair to his head unit. So he ended up just doing the
RPE.
He did RPE just by feel, and he ended up having his best time out there ever. So I don't know.
Is that something to say, right?
Yeah.
Maybe crap that thing. All right, so at the end of here, we'll post in the interview with Zach. It's pretty good. So just forgive us for a little bit of wind noise at the beginning, but it does dissipate, and then we're good to go.
Yeah, it's just a short talk with him. It was just after the podium presentation. It was windy. It was really cold. He was still in his skin suit, and I appreciate him taking a couple minutes to talk about his efforts and his race experience that he had on the day. So didn't want to take up too much of his time and give him hypothermia or something.
And we appreciate him talking to us as well. So there's another one coming up too, right? A Beat the Clock or something like time trial coming up.
Yeah, so that's a regular occurring series. I don't know the number that they have. I think 5 or 6 events that they do out along the Crystal Springs Reservoir along, I think it's Highway 280 that's over there. But that's coming up, and I know it gets some good attendance as well, and it's a pretty well used 10-mile course. So I think if you can go out there relatively frequently, you've got a good opportunity to compare yourself to a bunch of really good time trialists.
It seems like Jeremy Cadell is promoting that, or I was seeing him kind of pushing that one online. So maybe he has something to do with the organization of that one.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I thought it was put on by the SunPower guys, but I don't know that for a fact.
We should probably ask him before we just start saying, hey, contact Jeremy for questions.
He knows it all.
He knows it all. So upcoming in Northern California, we have Copperopolis this weekend. It's kind of the NorCal's version of some sort of European classic. The roads are in horrible shape, and
everybody
it's a tough
says it's like the hell of Northern California.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be the rival to Paris-Roubaix. It goes off at the right time, kind of classic season, but obviously a bit more climbing in that race than Paris-Roubaix.
Yeah,
I'm not doing it.
I'm not either. We have family things going on, but I think Talansky was out there last year doing that for some reason.
He was, yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see. There's just some behind the scenes. We've got a guy, Stefan Creason, who you can check out his podcast. I don't know if he's partying the night before, but he's really focused on. He's upgrading to a 2. His last race is a 3. We have another friend, Yatwa, who just upgraded, so it'll be his first race as a 2. That'll be interesting to see. Good luck to him.
Yeah, that's a tough race to have as your first P12 event.
Yeah. How do you do?
I think it's almost 100 miles that they're having the P12 guys
I think
do,
so, yeah.
And it's a pretty highly targeted race for guys, so it's going to be a brutal event. I'm pretty sure Talansky's not going to be doing the race this year.
He's doing like cannabis or something now.
No, he's pitching cannabis, but he's racing triathlons, and I think his first real pro event is coming up, not this weekend, but the following at Ironman Oceanside.
Oh, that'll be interesting to see how that works out.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we have. Did you look at Reg for Copperopolis? I know, like local, we have Timmy Bauer. He's gunning for that, so we'll see how he does.
Yeah, there was not a huge turnout. I was kind of surprised given the fact that it's a pretty well-regarded race. I think there was 37 in the P12. Mike's Bikes has a pretty strong team going into that. Dolce Vita has a handful of guys. I think Timmy's the only representative from Oak Valley Community Bank, and then Yacht was in there as a solo as well. The 35 race, I was surprised to see the turnout was less than 20. I'm not sure if it's just not fitting guys' schedule with Chico a couple of weeks ago.
Easter.
That
weekend.
as well, yeah.
These are family men that may not have the leash
Right. So, but it does look like the guys that are showing up are all high quality, so it's going to be a brutal event.
So show up there. Maybe I should register. I get a top 20.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, that's what I'm always looking for. Oh, I have to finish. That's the problem. Might not be able to do that.
Right.
Okay, then we have some crits and some other things coming up. Visalia, we talked about that before. Check it out online. Support the race if you can. The same weekend, we have Winchester on Saturday. It's one of the new races. It goes around the Winchester Golf Course up in Auburn. It's great road surface. It's really one of my favorites. Last year, they're a church kind of where everyone stages. They actually, I think the last few years have come out and made food for people. So the community's kind of embracing it. Hey, you finally have a community that's not, they're not shooting golf balls at you while you're racing. They're not upset. So it's, embrace this race, keep it going.
Yeah, it's a really fun one. Like you said, it's a tough course.
Super tough. Yeah.
I mean, there's a 5 to 7 minute climb each lap, and it's a full gas effort, but at the same time on the backside there's a really fun descent, so if you get dropped you can still have fun, and like you said, the community really does embrace it. They pull out the lawn chairs and cheer you on as you go around, so it's one where I think as more folks come out to it, it'll be more and more welcomed.
I think that would be a really, and then the next day we have the Auburn Crit, which is kind of your same hard man, it's climby, fast descent, downtown crit, and it would be really cool to see both these kind of flourish. I mean, can you imagine Winchester with like a really good P12 field up that climb? You get a bunch of people and just like, every few minutes they're coming by again, just dogging it. And that'd be awesome. That'd be pretty cool. It's a venue right there.
Yeah, it's a great venue. It's, like you said, road surface is smooth. So if they had like a huge high quality field, I think it'd be a really exciting race.
Yeah. So we'll be there. So that'll be really exciting on our part.
I think so, yeah.
We Definitely. Found out, I talked to a guy, Josh Flood. I haven't actually spoken with him, but he got in contact with me. He's got a website. It's called sacbikefans.com. You can check it out. I'm just now kind of cursing through it the last few days a little bit, posting a lot of the race stuff up there himself. I don't know if it's a labor of love or if he's getting anything out of this, but it's pretty cool. So sacbikefans.com, check it out. I get nothing from this. I just thought I'd pass that info along. Maybe I'll look at it a little closer, and maybe I'll give a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So Josh, you never know. So some big winners, losers of the week. Chris, would you have any winners that you'd like to mention?
I'm going to go with Zach Morvant, just for his awesome effort at the Tempus Fugit time trial, and not just to win one, but to win both the P12 and 35 plus with a short gap between the two races is that's darn impressive. Yeah,
you asked him some good questions, like about how much time between the two races, time difference between the two races. So I'm not going to spoil that, so I'll let you listen to that. I would say Riker, just for following along in his Chico time, and the whole TMBE team for kind of just closing everyone out at the Santa Cruz Classic. Biggest loser? You have anybody on your list for that?
I think I open with it's sunny and 70, and I'm happy, so there's no losers today.
Oh, the sunny.
Everybody's a winner.
When Curt doesn't show up, you turn into this nice guy.
I do. Curt brings me down.
Well, my loser is Curt for not showing up. Actually, it's Viviani saying that it was the most disappointing loss of his career. Gent Wevelgem.
Now, is he a loser for having lost, or a loser for having claimed that as his biggest loss? Or is he just a loser?
Actually, he's having an amazing year.
He is.
I don't know. Maybe both of those a little bit. I mean, is
he? He's not doing Flanders, is he?
I don't know. I didn't check that.
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, probably not. Last little thing out there. Lance Armstrong is missing the Tour of Flanders. Some little thing that they're going to have there due to family issues. What family issues do you suppose those are that are big enough to keep him from something he's had scheduled and promoting for the last several months? Let's speculate.
On speculate what he considers family. I've heard various rumors about, financial issues, having to sell his house and all this other type of stuff. So it's maybe the family issues are family of himself and he's just not able to get out there. I don't know.
Well, he just went to Mexico for his kids, like spring break he was talking about. So I don't know if it's money issues. I know the lawsuit's moving forward and they're going to have like some 50 witnesses. And right. That's a ball buster. So who knows? Who cares? Anything else you have for you?
The only thing I have on my things that make you go, I was looking at the Auburn flyer and registration form, and there's not a women's P123 race. And I don't know if that's an oversight, and I just didn't see it correctly, or if they're not incorporating that into the Omnium for the weekend. So be curious to see how that shakes itself out.
I looked at that as well after you brought it to my attention, and it says Omnium.
Right.
Everything I think says Omnium, though, on the Winchester. So you'd expect to have an Omnium, you'd need it more than one day or one race.
So maybe
and I
we're
didn't see
missing
it on
something.
I don't know. Maybe they just didn't have any registration pre-reg, and so this was I was looking at bike reg, so I guess reg hasn't closed yet.
Right.
Seems a little premature maybe for that. So if someone knows out there, maybe Red Kite guy or someone, is it Red Kite?
Yeah, so I believe it's the Auburn Crit and the N Winchester have both been rolled into the Red Kite Omnium. So Steve Rosefield's kind of helping put those on. I know Winchester is obviously being helped out by the Body Concepts racing team.
So maybe Matt or one of those guys can let us know.
They're doing Winchester, and then Victory Velo is doing the Auburn Crit. So we can check in with them to see.
All right, yeah. I mean, we're not trying to pull any, but we just, hey, it seems interesting. One of the big, now when I say big, I don't know, maybe one of the fields is missing from registration. So we'll try to get to the bottom of that. If someone knows, you can post it up on our Facebook page as well. So any other little nuggets of knowledge you want to dispose on the crowd today?
Nuggets of knowledge? No. How are you watching Flanders this weekend?
That one, I don't believe it's on the NBC, so I'll probably pirate it, and
I'll probably do the same.
Cycling fans
are probably the two races I actually get up early for and try to watch as much as I can.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
They're great races.
Yeah, I'll do the same. Some of those pirate feeds seem to be getting better and better as the years go by too. So I mean,
yeah.
I'm trying to remember which one it is, but anyway, I've been getting the last few weeks of stuff, and so far my computer isn't totally corrupted. So.
Yeah, that's always risky. I ended up buying the NBC Gold Sports app in addition to my existing NBC Gold that's covered through my cable carrier, and I think I've seen like one race of interest just because all the ones I want to see aren't covered by that.
Yeah, they had the Tour Down Under, and then they'll have like Paris-Nice, but the nice thing is they had the full on Tour and Vuelta. I mean, like daily.
Yeah.
And as soon as it's up, the next 10 minutes, it's on replay. So it's pretty cool. You could do phone and everything else. So find out if, I don't know. I don't even look to see where Flanders, so maybe we should check that out. All right. So that's it for episode 50. Stay tuned for the interview. If you want to get in touch with us or to be notified about the podcast or whatever else we have in mind, you can find us on Twitter at B2W_podcast. Instagram, it's the same, B2W_podcast. Our Facebook.com/BetweenTwoWheels, and if you need to email us, you could do it admin at BetweenTwoWheels.com. And Chris, thank you for showing up.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Curt? Okay.
All silence from Curt.
We'll talk to you guys later. Thanks.
So I'm standing here with
Zach Morvant.
And who do you race with?
I race with Dolce Vita Freewheel, paid by SL2.
Okay, and what categories did you race today?
I raced in the Pro 1-2 category as well as the Masters 35 Plus 1-2-3.
Okay, and I'm standing here and I see a couple of medals around your neck, so that's usually indicative of a good day. So tell me about your day.
Yeah, I had a great day. I got a good night's sleep, woke up pretty early, headed over here, did my usual warm-up, listened to a little bit of Motorhead to get myself pumped up, and then hit the start line first for the P1-2 race.
Okay. And I assume you've done this course before?
I have. It's been a few years.
Okay.
Last time I did it was as a Cat 3. It's a little bit technical. It's a fun course.
Yeah.
I like it because you can really put the power out going up, and then on the way down you got to practice your technical skills and taking some potentially gnarly turns in the sticks.
Yeah, it was. This is my first time doing the course. I got to learn it a little better before I put up a good effort. But
yeah.
P1-2 race, you got a first place medal there, so you did well. Any idea on how you kind of paced yourself out, just kind of power up and then cruise back down, or how'd you play it?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I cruised back down, but I definitely split it so I put out more power on the way up.
Okay.
I feel like that's where you can make sort of the biggest difference, especially knowing in the past how the turns can be kind of wet, especially given today's conditions and the way they were 3 years ago was pretty similar. I knew I'd have to get on the brakes for a couple of those gnarly turns at the bottom, so best to really put the power down going out.
Definitely, I would agree with you on that. And then what was the lag time between
the start of your P1-2 race and the start of the 35 plus 1-2-3 race, did you have enough time to cool down, or did you have to do another warm-up?
I had about 17 or 18 minutes, I think. So fortunately I'd gotten the spray glue for my numbers the other day, so it was a pretty quick number change, and then just kind of keeping the legs spinning. So I didn't cool down too much, which was difficult. It was, as you know, it was cold here.
Yeah, it was very chilly at the start. Time differences between the two runs?
About 3 seconds.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you were able to kind of hit a good power number and stay on that then.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on taking 2 wins on the day.
Well, thank you very much.
It's a good take, and look forward to seeing you out at other TTs and other races. So
Absolutely.
awesome. Well, thanks.
Right on. Have a good one.
Yeah.